and I'm very emotionless. If I make a couple birdies back to back, cool. If I make a couple bogeys back to back, cool. So for that 4 hours, I'm playing golf, uh, actually playing golf, and not a lot going on in my head. And then after the round, I'll be like, yeah, I played good. I made a couple birdies. Oh, I played bad. I made a couple bogeys, but not a lot's going on in my head when I'm in that flow state.
Welcome once again, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've had a tremendous time with Swiish Golf, just talking about different topics as it relates to being a high performer. We talked about the growing pains, the difference between being a professional, being an amateur, some of the similarities, the differences. And so today what we wanted to do is we wanted to talk about flow, right? Playing in the zone. You know, the late Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi was the godfather of this concept that we call flow. And after studying hundreds of athletes, rock climbers, musicians, nuns, chess players, and all kinds of performers, he found that there were certain similarities that they all possessed. And we're not going to talk about all of them today, but we did want to talk about a few of them. And so Swish Golf Team, welcome again. And we're going to go round robin, and just like we've always done. And what I want to do is I want to talk about the 5 elements of flow that are integral and for me are real time. And the first one is joy. Then we have clarity, immediate feedback, skills, a balance of skills and challenges. And then we have focus. And so I want to talk about those areas and how you all are using those as high level performers, not only at the collegiate scene like Isaiah, but on the professional scene like our golfers Jack and Jack here. And then Clayton, being the CEO founder of Swish Golf, I just want you to interject where you see fit. So let's start off with joy, right? So, and Keziah, we'll start with you. When Dr. Csikszentmihalyi was studying these concepts and when he presented them, he said that when you look at high level performers, they all had something similar in that they were all joyful about their trade craft. They were all joyful about their profession. And one of the concepts that he used was an autotelic personality. And it's a fancy word, but it simply, auto means self and telos means goal, an actual goal, right? And the work itself is my goal. The work itself is my reward. I love playing golf for the love of playing golf itself. I love, if I'm a basketball player, shooting free throws for the love of shooting free throw itself. I love reading because I just love how I feel when I read. And so he said that when he studied these high performers, they seemingly had this autotelic personality and they just loved what they do. Why don't you start us off in talking about your love for golf and would you describe it as love or as joy? How do you fit into that first kind of prerequisite to entering into a flow state?
I would say I love golf. I'm fairly new to the game of golf. A lot of kids I play against, or young adults, should I say, I'm getting old now, I'm not a kid no more. A lot of young adults play golf since they were little, since they could walk really. But I used to play football, the real football, soccer, as you probably call it. I used to play soccer before. And I only started playing golf when I was 12, 13. So I'm fairly late to the game. But I definitely enjoy golf more than soccer. I like how independent golf is. Every success, obviously with a small team around, every success is a reward for your actions. Every failure is a reflection of your actions. So I definitely love the game of golf. I'll give you an example. I was on holiday for 10 days with my girlfriend a few weeks ago. And I didn't bring my clubs with me. And it just made me appreciate how lucky I am to play the game of golf. Even I was playing badly before going on holiday and I'm on the golf course. I'm like, I hate golf. I hate golf. But then in reality, when you get taken away from the game of golf for a bit, you start to miss it. And that's when you really appreciate and reflect on how lucky you are to play the game of golf. So I definitely say I love the game of golf.
Awesome. Would you say that it's a requirement for you in order for you to continue to sustain a high level of play, or do you think it's just an added benefit?
You talking about love or
Yes,
the love for the game?
yes, the
Yeah,
love that you
sure.
have for golf.
For sure. I mean, if you don't love something, well, if you don't love something, there's no point really pursuing it. I don't think any golfer that plays golf to a high level will say they don't love the game of golf. Um, I feel like you have to love the game of golf to even have an interest in it or carry on playing. So yeah, I definitely love the game of golf, and I wouldn't be playing it if I didn't love it.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. Jack Manley, how do you enter into this conversation, right? When you study these high performers, they all seemingly have this disposition that they love their craft. How would you explain your relationship with the game of golf?
Yeah, and I think that it's a matter of kind of for me. I think the better you get at something, the easier it is to fall in the trap of I love this, you know, purely based off results, and I think that's a huge trap that people can fall into. Whereas they love it, they're playing well, they're playing well. As soon as it doesn't quite go their way, or it doesn't quite, they slip off that kind of flow, or they're not playing as well, then they kind of really despise it, and that's kind of, you want to kind of stay away from that trap, if anything, really. So I think it's just that unconditional love, and also just being grateful for having it, and it's like, as I said, it's that kind of unconditional love for me, which really brings me back to it. And disconnecting yourself from results is so important for me. Going out there, whatever you shoot, however bad you do, however well you do, you still got to, in the moment you're going to be fuming and you're going to hate it, but there's that underlying love for it which brings you back next time.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love how you stated that. Jack Herzberg, when it comes to golf and the love of what you do, the joy in what it is that you do, Jack just said you have to disconnect yourself from the results, right? Do you agree with that? And how do you do that to continue to maintain that joy, even though that you might be shooting or playing poorly?
I just love the feeling of striking a golf ball. So for me, whether I'm playing a tournament or not playing a tournament, I'm like chipping in my garden or whatever. I'll just always enjoy that feeling. And then obviously it's an added bonus if you're playing good golf, the success that comes with that. But for me, yeah, regardless of where I am, just like that feeling of striking a golf ball, I don't think anything gets any better. It's just so satisfying.
That's awesome. I love that. And you could even see it like in your face, Jack, when you said that. I can feel that through the screen, right? It's just like, man, I just love
Yeah, yeah.
golf ball. Like I just love doing that.
Yeah, that's what I chase. I go on the course. I'm not like going out. Well, obviously I'm going out there to try and win, but taking each shot at a time, I'm just trying to hit it as good as I can. And it's the most satisfying thing when you do.
That's great. That's great. Now Clayton, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. As a CEO, founder of Swiish Golf, there had to be something that stirred up in you to say, you know what? I really like, or I love this game enough to have this vision and to put this vision on, take it out of my head, put it on paper, and bring it to life and to drive it, right? How would you explain your relationship with golf and the thought process behind what keeps you going?
I think for me, it's personal fulfillment, right? I think golf is quite a very unique sport compared to team sports because a lot of work and a lot of crafting you put in golf, it determines the results. So if you don't work hard, you're not going to get the good results. If you play team sports, you can more or less get away of slacking off a little bit because a lot of your teammates will carry the weight for you. So for me, it is about pushing the boundaries for myself. I'm always the type of person I always want to learn and develop, right? I always want to do something different. I like to push boundaries and challenge myself. So I think when I started playing golf, obviously I play nowhere near as good as these guys. But going to what Jack Kersbeck said is that when you have a good shot, it just makes you feel good, and you want to go back and do it again. So it's yeah, I think that's for me. It's the reason is personal fulfillment, and I just want to keep trying doing new things and pushing the boundaries and see what I'm capable of.
I love it. I love it. I love the responses, and that you can, as the viewers can hear and see. For those who are watching, you could tell that you all really enjoy this game of golf. And Jack Kersberg, we're going to go back to you, start back with you and work back upwards here. So the another area in which Dr. Jensen Smihai said that he found that athletes spend a lot of time in before they reach this flow state was what he called clarity, right? There is absolute clarity in what it is that I'm doing. High clarity leads to high performance. We know that in psychology, that the brain and even physiology, the brain has different cortical maps. And the clearer you are, the better you move, the better you perform. How would you explain your relationship with clarity when you're playing at a very high state? Like, what goes through your mind? Do you see things clearer? Do you see things before they happen, Jack Kersberg? Like, what are your thoughts there when it comes to this prerequisite of getting into a flow state?
I think in tournament, I'm very, very clear and precise with like what my aim is with each shot. Not on a hole, because if you think about it on a hole, I think it's easier to find failure. But say like each shot, I'm very, very, I know exactly what shot I'm going to hit. And obviously, depending on how well I've practiced, means how well I can like execute that calculation, if you like. But then in practice, I think it's really important to have a clear mind as well, because it's very easy to work on the wrong thing. So it can be like, I think it's the only sport in the world where you can practice for longer, but actually get worse. So I think it's very, very important to stay clear with what you're working on and for what reason.
How do you know? I just want to stay here for 1 second with you. How do you know that things are very clear with you? Like, what happens with you internally and maybe even externally?
In terms of practice or
No, in terms of
performance?
clarity, like when you know that you're clear, like, is there a certain thing that you do or that you don't do? Is there a certain, thing that like a routine that is executed? Like, how do you know that, man, I'm very clear right now? Is it less thinking? What is it for you?
I think, I think it is a thing of less thinking. If I feel nervous, it's for like the wrong reason. It's because like in the back of my mind, I know I haven't like practiced or stayed disciplined through training or whatever. So then I have a bit of a fuzzy mind and I might think of failure left, right, and center or in front of me. If I'm clear, I've kind of like followed a good structure for like that week. I've eaten well, trained well, and everything just seems like it flows better without the pun.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to think less in that specific moment, but more over the longer term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. Jack Manley, how about you? How do you know that you're clear? What describe to us your mental state when things are high definition, if you will. What's your process?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because I don't think any two players are the same when it comes to this. I don't think you'll find, when you're out on the course, each and every one of us has a different thought process. For me, for example, I love having one or two thoughts at the most. So if it was technical, I would have one or two thoughts. And it kind of links back to my previous point, which was kind of when you disconnect yourself from the results, you kind of focus more on the process. And that's where kind of that enjoyment comes, like we were saying before. But yeah, for me, it's definitely one or two thoughts for me out on the course. I don't personally like thinking about too much. But you might get some players who like to think about, 4, 5, or even 6. They think about different things in different situations. So, it's really individual.
Awesome. No, I like that, thinking about 1 to 2 things, right? The average individual has anywhere from 10, 12 to 60 plus thousand thoughts a day. And when you bring that with you, I was just speaking to a soccer team, when you bring all those thoughts with you and they have nowhere to go and you don't know how to corral them, things can get out of hand really quick. So
Yeah.
I love that.
And especially kind of under pressure, I think the more pressure you put on yourself, for me, the more things you have going around in your head, the worse it is. So if I have one or two things under pressure, that helps me block out, the surroundings, and it really helps me get, focused and in the zone. So
Yeah, I love that. Because how about yourself? When things are, rolling, describe to us your thought process, your relationship with clarity. What is a checklist for you, if you have one, for clarity? Like, what happens and what is the result?
Um, when I'm in the zone, when I'm in the flow state, I don't think about a lot. Um, it's bad to say, but when I play golf, I don't, I don't really care. I do care, but I care about the right thing. So like, I wouldn't, I wouldn't really care if I make a mistake because I tend to brush it off, and that's when I play my best golf. Whereas if I'm not in the flow state and I make a mistake, let's say I miss like a 4 foot putt, a 2 foot putt. If I'm in the flow state, I would brush off. I'll be annoyed, obviously, but there's nothing I can do now. It's in the past. So I kind of brush off and be like, okay, it is what it is. Whereas if I'm not in my mental flow state or locked in, as they say in America, our coach says locked in. If I'm not locked in, I'd let that miss part get to me, and then it messes up my whole momentum, my whole rhythm. So when I'm in the flow state, I'm very calm. I'm not thinking about a lot. If anything, I'm not thinking about anything because I do all my thinking on the practice area. I've been to the range before and I've done all my swing stuff. So now I just need to swing the club the same way as I've done so on the range. So when I'm actually in tournament mode and I'm in the flow state, not a lot's going on in my head. I kind of just go with the flow, and I'm very emotionless. If I if I make a couple birdies back to back, cool. If I make a couple bogeys back to back, cool. So for that 4 hours, I'm playing golf, uh, actually playing golf, and not a lot going on in my head. And then after the round, I'll be like, yeah, I played good. I made a couple birdies. I played bad. I made a couple bogeys, but and not a lot's going on in my head when I'm in that flow state.
I love that. I love that. These are really great answers, and I love the similarity and the nuance differences that you all have. Because we're going to stay here with you, and we're going to explore this next area that Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi talked about, called immediate feedback. When he studied these high level performers and they were in the middle of their performances, one of the things that he saw was that these high performers, they were able to um, uh, garner immediate feedback and to use that feedback. So obviously with you all, golf, you have the holes, right? You have every hole. Sometimes you're a little bit off to the right. You hook it, you slice it. Sometimes you overshoot it. And he saw that the athletes who performed the highest and best, they were able to get immediate feedback from their swing, from their putt, from their chip, whatever it is, and they were able to use it immediately and make an adjustment. When you're in a flow state, how does your relationship with feedback differ, or what is it like when you're playing really well when it comes to this area of feedback?
Yeah, but immediate feedback. I feel like golf has got a superpower. Like I'm sure both Jats can do it. Like I do it with my stepdad and my dad. Like they'll be on the range and you're not exactly looking at what they're doing, but you can okay, oh, he's in that, he chunked that, he towed it, he healed it. So like because we're so repetitive with our craft, we know the immediate feedback. We know what a thin sounds like. We know what a chunk sounds like. And then when you're actually playing tournament, but not even tournament, but in a round, as I said, I don't really think about a lot. But for example, if at the moment I'm pushing it because my hands are a bit behind and my hips move faster, I know that that's my bad shot. So the immediate feedback is okay. Let's slow the takeaway down and feel as if I'm pausing at the top of the swing. So that's my immediate feedback. If I hook it, I know I've overdone it because my hips have gone too fast. So I'm flipping my hands. If it goes a little bit right, I've not done it enough. So that's my immediate feedback right now. I wouldn't necessarily overthink it on the course. I'd have some checkpoints. As I said, slow the takeaway down a little bit and feel as if I'm pausing a little bit at the top of the swing. Right now, that's my immediate feedback because I'm missing the golf ball to the right a little bit.
So when you're playing your best, you're in tune with your body and your mind.
Yeah. There's as Jack Manny was saying, every golf is different. I'm more of a feel player. I feel like I know Tiger Woods was a feel player. Some people are more technical. For example, you might have heard of Bryson DeChambeau. He's very technical, numbers based, and I'm the opposite. I try and stay away from that. I'm very a lot of feel in my hands, and then a lot of just feelings. So my immediate feedback will tend to come from feelings, like uh, where my hands are, where my arms are, and my swing. So I'm more of a feel player.
I like that. I like that. Jack Manley, one of the hardest things to do, they say, is to play golf. It's to hit a golf ball. It's to master where that little white ball is going, or whatever color ball you use. How would you describe immediate feedback for you? Are you able to make it when you're playing your absolute best? What is happening as it relates to feedback? Overshot that, hips swung too open. I'm hooking, I'm slicing. Describe that for us.
Yeah, I think it's really tough. When you're in the middle of a tournament, when you're in that kind of environment, it's really hard to make huge adjustments because you're in that pressure situation. You don't want to change too much because you might go the other way or something. But for me, in practice, I like kind of exaggerating certain movements. And for me, as a bit like Kazai, I'm quite a feel player. So I like feeling exaggerated movements on the range, which I can transfer to the course, which makes it a bit easier for me under pressure. So the thing for me is I don't like making too small adjustments when I'm out on the course because that can lead to kind of inconsistencies. So I think it differs. Whether if you're in a tournament, I would definitely kind of regulate how much you change out on the course. Whereas if you're kind of on the practice area, you can exaggerate and try some more things out.
Excellent. Do you have so when you are playing your best, based on what you just said, you don't want to try to change too much. Is it something that naturally just happens for you in terms of immediate feedback? Like, all right, like I feel like I'm overreaching this way or overshooting this way, and you can make it intuitively, like it's naturally, or is there a checklist of sorts that you use, whether it's self cues or whatnot, that you use to get back to what you need to do in terms of your form and technique?
It's definitely instinctual for me. It's definitely instinctual. I think if it differs from it depends what it is, I suppose. Because like if you're missing a certain way that day, if you're missing to the right, for example, you get different players, like Tiger, for instance. If he was on the range and he was struggling, maybe he was hitting a cut that day, he would play with that. Whereas I would assume a lot of other players wouldn't. They would try and stick to their natural shot or the shot that they've played previous days. So I think a lot of players like to adapt, and that's more of my style. I quite like to adapt when I'm out there. Whereas I know a lot of players, they like to see the same thing day to day. But again, I kind of echo what Kazai said. If you're quite a technical player, it'll be different. So I think that's kind of the base of it, really.
That's very rich there. Jack Kurzberg, when it comes to feedback, what happens in your process in terms of being able to take that information and change it, upregulate, downregulate, more right, more left, more power? What is your relationship with feedback?
I think from practice, from like speaking about like a week of a tournament, you kind of have general feelings of and like certain swing thoughts that might create certain shot. Like you have your misses, like Keziah said, what that feels like and what the causes are. So when you're like in tournament on the course, if I see like a ball go right, I'll sort of instantly know the cause of that. And then I feel like with pressure, it's hard to create the discipline to make your body move in another way because it's like a discomfort, and the last thing you want to be on a course in tournament is uncomfortable. So I think it's like a discipline for me to just make myself hit or make the correction or take the feedback on by producing a shot where I don't make the same error, sort of thing. But it is very feel based as well. I think the biggest reference point we have obviously is the results with golf, luckily.
Yeah, I love that. Clayton, as you have watched these young performers, both professionally and collegiately, Keziah, what have you noticed, as an outsider looking in, right? As somebody who's providing support, and somebody who gets to get an objective view. What have you seen in terms of clarity, feedback, as it relates to their performances?
Preparation. I think these guys are very prepared. They're very committed to their craft. I'll say some of them are borderline obsessed, which is not a bad thing, right? Because they want to do it really, really well. I think they I know it's hard to say because there are three different types of golfers, and like the guys explained, they do things certain ways and individually. But what I can say that's a common denominator across all three of them is that they work extremely hard to get to their to get to the next level. So it's I think the hard work and effort is quite paramount between all three of them.
I love that. I love that, and it's definitely you can see it in just the way that they explain their journey. Because when you look at Dr. Tetris Mihai's work on flow and playing in the zone, right? One of the things that he said was that there is this balance, right, of skills and challenges that high performers have. So if something is too easy, I become bored or apathetic. If something is too difficult, I become angry and frustrated. But when individuals are performing at the highest levels, their skills are matching the challenge. And furthermore, when the challenge is a little bit outside of comfort, performers play at a higher level. What do you think when you hear that?
I can agree and disagree to some statements. And for me, anyway, I feel like when I'm uncomfortable, I tend to play worse. Not based off pressure. I kind of enjoy playing under pressure. Out here in America, teammates are constantly playing for money, for dinner and stuff. And that makes you play a bit more seriously. And because there's something on the line, right? And there's been times in tournaments where I've had to make a putt to, let's say, like make the cut or kind of finish in the top 10. And I've always found myself striving under pressure. So that's something I can agree with. But yeah, I mean, that question is very, it varies for each person. So I'm sure both Jacks will have a different opinion than I will. But golfers live for pressure at the end of the day. We're all trying to play professional golf. And the players on tour that you watch, they've got putts for millions and millions of dollars. So that's all something that we practice now, so that when we get to that level, we can say, oh, okay, we've done it already. Even though we haven't, we've been through that repetitive practice, that when we do get to that high pressure situation, that we're ready.
I like that. I like that. So when you said if it's when it's difficult, when you're uncomfortable, you play a little worse.
I mean, when I mean uncomfortable, for example, golfers, they prefer a certain type of golf course. I feel more comfortable on longer and wider golf courses. So I can just hit the ball as hard as I can and get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel a little bit more uncomfortable around a tight golf course because I know I like to hit the ball hard, so then I have to find it within myself to kind of try and hit the ball straight. So that's when I mean uncomfortable. Certain types of grasses, because in golf there are different grasses: bent grass, piranha grass, Bermuda grass. I know I'm quite uncomfortable in Bermuda, but there's a lot of grain. So that's when I mean uncomfortable.
Okay, fair enough. Jack Manley, we'll go to you. Skills and challenges. If it's too hard, I become frustrated and angry. If it's too easy, I become bored or apathetic. And seemingly, some of the best performances come when you can match those skills with the challenge. And if you reach just a little bit outside, you have the potential for a legendary performance. How do you enter into that conversation?
Yeah, I think that's the importance of the environment you put yourself in. I think that's what kind of, because I was getting at, was kind of like, if you put yourself in an environment where you're playing against slightly better players than you, you're playing at courses where you're not as comfortable as you usually would be. I think that is the key. Really, is I think that's it's quite an easy way of kind of matching yourself up, because if you're playing against a player who's for example, us guys, we're trying to get onto, you know, Challenge Tour or whatever we're trying to get onto. When we play against a player who's kind of been there, that's automatically an indicator of that's the level I need to get to. And it's quite, and you can see the difference, you know, you can see the difference in your game and little bits here and there, little things you pick up. So I think environment is probably the most important thing in regards to that. And I suppose you have your personal, you know, your personal goals and your personal growth, which you kind of put aside, I suppose. But yeah, environment for me is really important.
Excellent. No, I like that. Environment is huge. Jack Herzberg, how about yourself? You know, when you're playing against better competition or when you're playing against, you know, lower level competition, what is your relationship with skills and challenges when you're playing exceptionally well?
I think I'm just trying to look at every round of golf, no matter where it is or what it's for, as the same, because ultimately it never changes other than like the course. It's just down to you to like hit the shots, whether it's a huge pressure shot for millions of set playing like an evening, it's still the same thing. So I think people can build like an image in their head, but all of a sudden you think it's so far away or you think you need to live up to something, but ultimately it's just within your control and you just have to step up and hit it. So for me, I just like to see it as neutral, and no matter what it's for, it's the same shot. So you're just in your own zone and you go with the flow.
Okay, fair enough. So I have a question. This is this was not a scripted question, but I want to ask this because I think it's important when you start talking about skills and challenges. I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure all of you, when you were younger, you were playing up. You were playing against golfers, competitors that were older than you, right? So at what point, this is just a question for the group here, and you all can answer, you know, in any which way. But at what point did you say, you know what, this is really hard? But then you had that epiphany where you're like, you know what, these guys are like 1, 2, 3, 4 years older than me, and I'm just as good, if not better than them. And it clicked for you. Talk to us about that for those who may be watching this and are playing against tougher, older, more experienced competitors when it comes to, you know, the relationship, if you will, of skills and challenges.
I'll talk on this a little bit. I'll kind of reverse it. I've played golf against people that are younger than me. When I was playing junior golf, I was hitting the ball I'd hit the ball quite far when I was a junior golfer. But just because I hit the ball far doesn't necessarily mean that I was always going to score well, right? So there's a few tournaments I've played where I've played against kids that are younger than me. I'm talking about like 13, 14, but they would beat me because at the end of the day, golf's all about strategy. That they know they don't hit the ball far, so they're going to plot their way onto the fairway, plot their way onto the green, and then their putting would determine whether they play good or bad. So at the end of the day, golf's all about strategy. So yeah, I've played against guys that are a lot younger than me, and they've beaten me pretty bad just because of their strategy.
Interesting.
I also think there's an
Sorry, I'll play after you, mate.
Sorry, I was going to say, I always think there's an element of recognizing mental toughness, right? Because if you get to any competitive sport, you instantly compete with other people. I think at some point you got to realize, is this going to be too hard for me? And if it is, can I push myself? And can I keep pushing myself for these boundaries? So I think as soon as you realize that, I think you become a better athlete or golfer in whatever sport it is. So I think it's quite key to recognize, you know, is this going to be tough for me? And can I handle it and push myself?
Yeah. I like that. Jack, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I think for me, it was when I played, I remember playing against better players than me, obviously growing up and still now. And it's always been about, you obviously compare, you know, certain parts of your game to others. And for me, it's those kind of little things that make a huge difference. Like, I honestly, between, you know, us three obviously playing a lot at the minute, there isn't a huge amount of difference between us and, you know, some tour pros out there. I'm sure we could probably match up with a couple of them one day. But it's those little things that make a huge difference, and it's never as big as you think. I think you're always comparing yourself to people who are better, and you look at them and you think, wow, they're shooting ridiculous scores, but actually there's not a huge difference. And I think it's dangerous to kind of always compare yourself, because I think that can lead to some, I don't want to, it leads to I don't know how to phrase it really. It kind of leads to thinking you're all, you're never going to get there, or you're always struggling to get there, when actually it's only a couple of steps more. It's quite hard to explain, but
no, I think that what you're trying to explain, I think that many, if not the vast majority of athletes, struggle with it, especially those that play professionally, because in any, and I'm talking about any sport, because there's always somebody that's faster, there's always somebody bigger, there's always somebody stronger, more seasoned, right? And when you play that game, as you're mentioning, I think you're talking about, Jack, it's almost like it's insatiable. It doesn't, there is no end in sight. And so you have to be careful and temper that, because you can negate a world of progress if you're not careful. I don't know if that was what you were trying to say.
No, definitely. That's my underlying point was you have your strengths and other people have their strengths, and it's hard to know how those are going to line up. And one day you might do really well, and your strengths will kind of will shine and will lead you to success. And that'll be different for other players. So it is hard to compare, at face value all the time.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's a very much needed. Jack, how about you? Jack Kurzberg, how about you? I don't know what your experience was in terms of the nuance and the detail as far as playing against competitors older than you and how you felt. But was there a time when you said, you know what, this is really hard. These guys are good. They're older than me. But as you grew and matriculated, you're like, you know what, I can play with these guys. Explain to us about this concept that we're talking about in terms of skills and challenges and entering into a flow state.
I think the first experience for me was when I was at Wentworth. I was like a fairly new scholar there, and Gary Player, a legend of the game of golf, was doing his society day in effect for Berenberg, and there was probably like 250, 300 people with certain professionals like Martin Keimer on the range watching, and he was doing a clinic. And he mentioned that he was going to pick out someone random from the crowd to try and hit a specific shot that he wanted to see. And he picked me, and I was like 13, 14 at the time. I was still playing football, so golf wasn't like my complete forte, and dreams were set for that. And I stepped up to the drive, and he told me to hit a high cut. In my mind, I was just completely shaking, didn't think I would be able to do it or whatever, and I stood up and did the shot and hit it in front of these people. That was my first experience where I was kind of like, oh, you know what, I actually can do this. And then I think as you go on and play other tournaments, you might play with someone that then goes on to win a tournament in the first round, and you end up finishing 10th. But in that first round, you kind of see so many similarities between what you've done in that round and what he's done, and he's ended up going and winning. And it kind of gives you an insight into thinking like, oh, well, if I only did this or did that, I would have been in that position. So it kind of like constantly teaches you that, as Jack said, it's not that far away. It's you just got to stay with the process and it will sort of happen.
I like that. And yeah, it's man, this is such a rich conversation, because there's so many things that we're even though we're talking about a specific thing, there are a lot of concepts like process, routines, Clayton mentioned preparation that go into these things. And so I love this conversation. So thus far, we've talked about Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's flow and flow state and some of the elements that were almost prerequisites of sorts in order for an athlete to enter a flow state. So we talked about joy, clarity, immediate feedback, this relationship with skills and challenges. And the last area is focus. concentration, right? Focus is defined as the ability to concentrate on a task for a specified or unspecified amount of time. And in today's, society and culture, people have a hard time focusing on things. But we know that some of the best competitors that the world has ever seen, and those that are among us now, they have a really strong relationship with focus. They can focus for hours on time, days on end if they need to. And so, Jack Herzberg, we'll start it off with you. When you are playing your absolute best, talk to us about focus. What are you focused on? What are you not focused on? What does focus mean to you? Can you explain that to everybody?
When I'm playing my best, I'm focused on everything positive. Nothing negative comes into my mind. So I'm like focusing on little things like the calculation that kind of keep my mind busy on the right things. So I like take quite a lot of time and take quite a lot of attention when it comes to like calculating a number of how far I'm going to hit the ball and then the way the variables like affect this specific shot. Because you're doing that for the whole time, the whole round merges into one. I find it a really good way to stay focused. But then at the same time, I think that can work negatively against you. If you're too focused, you get too emotionally involved with the game if you're not, say, hitting and executing what your plan is. So then, for instance, like my caddy, he'll do like trivia questions with me on the course to kind of like lighten that mood. But then when I need to snap into the focus mode of calculating and executing, I'm sort of in a fresh, light mood where I haven't just not spoken to anyone the whole round. I'm just in a state where you're almost normal, but you can snap into that focus when you need. So, yeah, I think keeping everything normal is a good way to stay focused.
I like that. I like what you said about all things positive. So you have a filter like, hey, everything that I think, say, or do is going to go through this filter. And if it's not positive, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, for sure. Because you find it as well. I've had caddies in the past that have said to me, like, I'm standing on the 17th tee, there's a good round going, there might be money involved, and I might need to make a certain score. He's not a very good golfer himself, and he suddenly says, oh, just don't hit it out of bounds. And obviously, it's the last thing you want to hear in your mind. So you just like disregard that, and yeah, as you say, use a filter to take on board and kind of hear what you want to hear as well.
Powerful stuff there. Jack Manley, how about yourself? When you are focused and you are concentrated, describe your experience with the audience today.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with focus for me is routine. I totally agree with what Jack was saying. Like, and I'm similar. Like, if you're playing around 4.5 hours, usually, in a competition, you cannot be thinking about your swing. You cannot be focused in zoned in for that long. I understand that other athletes in a team sport playing for 90 minutes or like a football match, it's doable, and it's sometimes stop start. But in such a long time frame, you need to be able to have these small distractions, and that's just me. Like Jack was saying with his trivia questions. I'll chat to my dad, who would be caddying, about football, or what we're doing next week, or whatever, and then the routine starts for me as I approach the ball. That's when I turn, and it's quite a regimented routine, and then we go through the calculations. So routine is my number one thing for focus.
Would you say your routine gets you, it's kind of like a checklist before you can focus? Do you use it kind of like as a reset if you are unfocused?
Yeah, definitely, and it's really important as well. If you're struggling that day, it also kind of it levels it cuts out all the variables. If you're playing bad, if you're playing good, if you snap back to that routine, that never changes regardless of how you're playing. So it's so important, regardless of the result or how you're doing. The routine is what gets you back into that present moment, and then you can play what shot you need to play.
I love it. Keziah, how about yourself? How about yourself when it comes to focus? Explain to us your rhythm, your cadence, what you do, what you don't do to enter into this focused state.
I think Keziah's laptop cut off.
Okay.
Got
Okay.
that.
We'll get him back on here here in a second. Clayton, I mean, as when you observe from an objective standpoint, what are your thoughts as it relates to focus in terms of, high performing athletes, average athletes, and then everybody else?
I think focus can be simple for certain athletes because there's only two outcomes, right? It's either going to go in the hole or it won't. I mean, when I play golf, I used to be quite the opposite. I used to have bad rounds, and I'll try and change swing patterns in between rounds, change this, change that, and then my emotions get out of whack. As I become a much better golfer, I think, you know what, the ball's going to go on the fairway or not on the fairway. It's going to go in the hole or not in the hole. So when I play that way, it keeps my focus in check and it keeps my emotions in check. So I don't deviate into this sort of tornado of emotions and trying to do different things to impact my golf game. And I feel like a lot of higher level athletes probably do something similar at a high standard as well. So it's not easy to do, but I think for me it kind of works, and I think it works for a lot of people as well.
Okay. No, I like that. And I think that people who are listening to this can find themselves almost autobiographically in the stories, right? That and the examples that you all have shared today. And we'll see if Keziah can jump back in here. But as we get ready to close, I just again wanted to open up to the room here. And we've talked about a lot of things, in this series. And everybody's going to take different things, but as it relates to playing in the zone, as it relates to being in a flow state, playing your best, not worrying about anything, and things are just seemingly happening, and I'm high performing, and I'm enjoying. I truly enjoy what I'm doing it to a place where it's palpable. And I'm just going to open it up to the room here. What are some final words that you would tell, fellow professional athletes, collegiate athletes? What would you say in your words that they should do? Right? We've heard about the science now, but now in your words, what should they do to maintain that sense of flow and that sense of joy while they pursue a sport that can be as frustrating as golf?
I think from an outside looking in, like watching these guys playing sports myself, if someone said they want to become a professional golfer, my key advice would be is keep doing what you're doing and don't quit, because you're going to come across a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, a lot of situations that these guys explained earlier that you may doubt yourself. Because I've heard a bunch of stories of people want to become professional golfers. They go to a range, they see a guy hitting a bomb like 350 yards. They're like, I can't do that. This game's not for me, and they quit. So if you believe in yourself and you really want to do it and you enjoy it, just keep pushing, keep doing it, and the results will come.
Awesome. I think that's wisdom well taken. I think Keziah has just joined us again. So I'll repeat the question for Keziah. Keziah, we talked about all these different concepts, right? In terms of being in a flow state, being in the zone, saw the science behind all of it. But what are some parting words that, you would share or the group would share regarding, hey, you know what, if you want to be joyous, if you want to perform at a high level, my encouragement to you would be this. And so Clayton just shared with us, and now the floor is y'all's as far as golfers. The floor is yours.
Yeah, firstly, sorry, my computer is about to explode. It's extremely hot. So I'm joining my phone now. But my advice would be golf's a very emotional game. You have highs and you have lows. I just take everything with a pinch of salt. I wouldn't get too down on yourself when you play a bad round of golf. And also I wouldn't get too excited when you do have that one good round, because golfers know it goes up and down. You play really good one day, and then the next day you go and shoot 80. It's like, how did I do that? My swing hasn't really changed. Yeah. Well, one day you play amazing, the other day you play really badly. So I would just say for golfers, find find a way to regulate yourself emotionally, stick to your craft, and just keep dedicated. As I said, you're gonna have some highs and some lows, but you just gotta carry on loving the game and remembering why you play the game ago, and just, as I said a few episodes ago, just hustle your way on the golf course.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that.
I think following on with what Keziah just said, I think staying emotionally neutral is so important. Like a lot of people might go crazy about winning a national championship at like the age of 18 and then get super annoyed with not making any sort of progress in results in the next like 3 years or whatever. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be like the best junior athlete in the world. You want to be the best 25-year-old in the world. So it's like that in the back of your mind is the process. Staying emotionally neutral all the way through to that point, I think, is a good way of getting there. Because, yeah, as you said, golf is a very tough game. So as long as you're moving in the right direction, you're going to have some dips and well, you're going to have highs and lows. So you've got to be content with whatever it throws at you.
I like it. That's some good advice right there. That's some good advice right there. That leaves us with Jack Manley. Jack.
Yeah, I think for me, the most important thing is explore and find things that work for you. I think in an age of social media and YouTube and all this stuff, there's so much information, and it's so easy to try and emulate other people to try and do this, which information's great, and use it to your advantage, but also find what works for you, because every player is different. There's no formula. So whatever kind of aspect of the game it is, whether it's short game, long game, or off the course stuff to help you with your golf, find what works for you, find your routine, and yeah, just try and improve as an individual when playing the game. So yeah, that's my point.
The only one thing I want to add as well is have fun with it, right? Golf is a beautiful game to play. It's not just about the game; it's about the people you meet, about the community around it as well. So a lot of guys who make it to the tour or the pros, majority of them turn around and say, "Yeah, I wish I just had more fun playing junior golf." So if you're starting, just have fun, see what happens.
Excellent. This has been tremendous. And I just want to say thank you again to all of you for joining us for this podcast. I think that there's been so much information. I know, I believe there's been so much information that it's very actionable, very palatable, and it's very applicable in terms of you can do it right now. And so for Jack Manley, Jack Herzberg, Keziah, for Clayton, I just want to say thank you for spending the time with us here. And hopefully one day we'll be able to meet each other in person. If I ever fly out there to to Europe, maybe we can go and hit a round of golf or something, and vice versa when you all come down here. It's been tremendous. And so on behalf of you all, my name is Josiah Igano, and you all have a tremendous rest of your day.